our focus today is the World Ocean Day, and with me today I have Nagappa Ramaiah sir, who is the Chief Scientist at NIO. Sir, to begin with, a very appealing theme that the United Nations has taken this year on World Ocean Day, that is, our oceans, our future. So if you could just elaborate on that initially.
Thank you, Shoaib, and thank you, Goa, for having me on this show. I'm very excited, and I'm excited because the ocean in the world has attracted the attention of the policymakers, the stakeholders, the common public, you and me included. So with this, the ocean, our future, is something that we should be really contemplating and think quietly for a minute or two. Every one of us, from the 3-year-old child to 100-plus-year-old gentlemen and ladies, who have to think that our life originated from the very soup of what we call the primordial soup in the ocean, and then began our evolution, and we have attained the highest level of sort of intellectual power, so much so that we have become virtual reality and we exist in different levels of elevations, both spiritually, economically, as well as socially. This said, I must take you back, Shoaib, for a couple of minutes to say how the World Ocean celebration, or even to institute an idea that the World Ocean Day should be celebrated all across the world, was mooted back in 1992, soon after the Rio summit. Actually, this is the 25th year of that idea having been talked about to the world. And back in 2008 only, the United Nations recognized and made a resolution to have every year 8th of June as the World Ocean Day. Yeah, pertinently this year and years before now have been not nominally, I think seriously in the few years hence 2012 or so, have been concentrating on and focusing on how do we address the issues of the ocean health. Yes, see, our future is buoyant, happy, and wonderful if you're healthy. And let me say, I am very emotional with the oceans and water in particular. And water is among the most precious commodity. And when one of my students was writing the thesis back in 2002 or so, that time the World Ocean Day was not something very well talked about. I said, water is the elixir of life. In the very first opening statement in her thesis, I wrote it, and I'm happy that she retained and got it accepted by his university. In that, water is the elixir of life, and ocean is 70% plus of the ocean, the land, the planet Earth's cover. And in this, you believe me, the oceans bordering all our nations, almost every nation, barring a few very sensitive civilizations which have cared for the very nascent health of the ocean, have kept their ocean ecosystem extremely well. But then, ocean is a continuum of water bodies. And therefore, what we pollute, for example, in Mumbai, will be reaching all across the west coast of India first, and also because we have a very peculiar directional change of the currents that will be taking the waste from this. Also, it's an invisible pollution through pesticides, innumerable number of chemicals that we use for our mankind development. All of this is really dissolving in the oceans and making this so-called life-supporting soup a toxicant.
So on that note, when we are talking about water being elixir of life, and 70% of our globe being water, which is a scientific fact.
Yes.
If I now restrict to India and specifically Indian Ocean, because no doubt we are concerned about the world, but to make it more local, if I ask you on Indian Ocean and how Indian Ocean has been over the years changed and due to people's intervention, if you could just throw some light on that.
I'm glad you asked this, because there is this important feeling that we have to keep our house neat. Indian Ocean is among the, I think, one of the best heritages for the Indians in particular. I'm glad that whoever is in the ancient civilization thought of calling this part of the ocean as Hindu Mahasagar. This is among the greatest of oceans, although very small compared to the Pacific or the Atlantic. It is among the most productive in terms of fish, that we all enjoy in Goa and across the country now, has been the source of food for every one of us, those who relished eating fish. Therefore, to focus on this, for example, I came in the rush hour in the morning at the school traffic. The rains that are falling, thanks to the oceans, that the waters from there evaporate and the winds drive the clouds towards the land, and this is bringing water to the lands, the surface water that you all now have for irrigation, for many uses. That is all coming mainly from the rains that we receive, thanks to the ocean that is supporting this evaporation and bringing. Now, let me also tell you, before I get into the main point and focus, we are 1.25 billion Indians, and we have a huge fraction of percentage in the globe. Every one of us on a daily basis consume the salt, NaCl, what you call chemically, comes from the oceans. Close to 85+% of the daily consumed salt comes from the ocean salt making. Now, you just imagine, Shoaib, for a minute or two, 5 grams is something that is the upper limit of salt intake, averaging just 4 grams child to the adults. If you consume 1.25 into 4 grams of salt per day, to put it squarely, it's about 625 trucks of 10-ton carrying capacity lined on a highway, on a straight line. You have more than 7 kilometers long lorry load of salt consumed daily. And that is the first economics that we have to be concerned about. And the second is the fish. Coming close to Goa, our home, that we have 110,000 tons of fish caught last year, according to our Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute statistics. This is the quantity. Although I'm not very happy with happy with the way people are fishing, the way we are handling our natural resources. But then the catch has been good this year. But then Goa also suffered as low as 60,000 tons per year of capturing marine free fish. Let me tell the world that feral fish is free. Unfortunately, we are the ones who spend diesel print or carbon footprints out on the ocean and also in the atmosphere, all because of our interest to catch fish for consumption and for varieties of the feed formations that we use in poultry, veterinary, etc. So this is one other aspect. And now, Indian Ocean is climatically a situation where among the 3 oceans that we talk about, scientists, especially physical oceanographers, and across the institute in Pune, we have the Indian Institute for Meteorology. They are predicting or warning that the Indian Ocean is warming rapidly, and it is not a good sign for several physical processes, including biology now. Because I'm a biologist, let me tell, there will be very large number of species of fishes, and down the line, the zooplankton, the phytoplankton, the bacteria, all of them keep having adverse effects, some of them.
So when you're saying that there could be adverse effects, what are those threats that human intervention is causing? I mean, what kind of human interventions are the issues with regard to this
good.
threat?
Thank you for bringing me back to this focal point. Pollution is a common word. Unfortunately, I feel very sad when I say that our waters are polluted. We are polluting deliberately in many cases, and inadvertently in most cases, and also our civic bodies not able to cope up with the population congregation that happens, because the coast is a job provider for varieties of reasons. Fishing to industries, to navigation, to transport across the world, you need to be having a base nearer the coast, and therefore close to 60% of the most populations across the nations try to live within the first 100 kilometers from the shorelines on the land. So therefore, when we have this human pressure, you can expect there is inadvertent people who have no capacities to have their own sanitary apparatus to be able to not to let their wastewaters reaching out in the open, and finally every water that is thrown out one day or the other, slowly or faster, reaches the oceans. So that pollution is something that we have to be worried about. Now the plastic pollution, irregular fishing practices. Our country is a leader in many, many ways. We have taken the world, the yoga, thanks to our PM, and we have taken the go and fish curry rice across all the ships that I have traveled in, and then it always is a fantastic feeling when I hear in the American ships saying that go and fish curry rice is a menu. And thanks to some of those people who are sentimental about India's greatness, they even served me, although it is not really tasting like the go and fish curry rice, but then the name was enough for me to feel extremely happy in this group. So therefore, coming to this point of how much is the human intervention that is spoiling, really, I don't want to scare this population on the World Ocean Day where we have to think of our future, but we are not careful in letting our waste reaching. To tell you very briefly, mostly 1.5 to 2 kilometers, or even in some stretches up to 5 kilometers, the waters close to the shores are polluted, and that is not fishable region. And if I put the thing all squarely, the waters, the 6 to 7 times the size of Goa. Goa is 4,000 square kilometers in area, and that much area in 7,800 or 900 kilometers of our shoreline is not fishable. In a way, the fish are not coming to this coast as you expected earlier. Our traditional fishermen have laid down their rampanker nets into rest. So these kind of things are happening, and there are so much of socio-economic impacts that happen, and people have to take care of that. Pollution, fishing impacts, tourism gets affected because the waters are not anymore that clean for anybody to go and think. Therefore, on our day to day, that is our oceans, our future, we have to safeguard like our PM says, for every drop, a crop per drop. Similarly, no drop of waste reach the ocean to pollute the natural system that is.
So if I ask you about very specific things, like Goa has known obviously for fish, and not just for fish but also for shellfish.
Yes.
And Goans by and large relish various dishes on that. Of late, we have seen a major drop in even the shellfish and fish, though, as you said, fishermen go out of the way into deep waters and fish. But what about shellfish? How can we preserve this ecosystem for ourselves?
Yes, sir. Actually, it's a very emotional question to me, because I just recently happened to go to a place in Goa where I had seen the accretion of the shells that you said about oysters are making one part of their shell attached to the rocks or any substrate.
Correct.
That you have hard one, and the other shell is allowing the flesh to be built inside. So when I saw that, this absolutely 20-25 years ago shell accreted and no new growth happening. That's because our water is not safe for them to be growing.
Breathing.
The one ray of hope that happened recently was the fact that some of these shinanis, the mussel we call perna, where it is, in some areas the animal younger ones were collected, which is a good news. It is a good news not because we are not polluting. It is because the organism has tried to kind of resist the waste that were happening and try to kind of adapt to the change scenario. And with the kind of waters that are not clean going in, I mean, it is not an individual that I also am responsible, although I'm a scientist in NIO. If I'm not making a statement clearly to the public with a plea that please do not let the waste, that is any waste that we produce, either dry wastewater or plastics, that you should never let it get out of the treatment system. If you have the treatment, if you can let the water to be clean to the extent that the nutrients alone, in some quantity, the nutrients can reach, and that's good, but not the garbage, not the extraordinary hazardous waste that reach the ocean. They should be contained, they should be treated, and that is when you can have a better feel. The Goa will enjoy the shellfish fishery once again. Not that these things have gone out of bounds, but they will come back if the waters are clean. They will come back and grow in good quantity if we have treated waters from the municipalities mainly, reaching the estuaries. We have fantastic lifeline of Goa, the Mondovi Zuari, and the other rivers from Chapora to Palole. So these are all the rivers that will give you wealth of shellfish and also sustain a lot of fishery. This is a monsoon time. People love fish in Goa.
Yeah.
The estuarine fishes are caught and sold.
To ask you, going more into detail and more into depth, you just mentioned about the rivers, and that is what next I wanted to ask you is, we are talking about development. We talk about development of rivers. Now we are talking about nationalization of Goan rivers, where navigation will take place, so on and so forth. But how much does this development affect ultimately the marine creatures?
Very good. Shoaib, let me tell you this. Human mind and the species has a capacity to determine what to do well. If this is a philosophical statement and tested time and again, go to any part of the history and go to any great leaders, they have a clear vision. Thanks to the nation, now we have one like that, and these visionaries will bring forth the force that is required to protect our ecosystems, protect the human species to be healthy, protect the human species to be caring for nature. That's all happening. And when you nationalize, when you do this, personally, let me tell this, nature provides for everybody happily. Mahatma Gandhi said, there is enough for everyone's need, but not even for one man's greed. When we have this kind of philosophy inculcated, taught to our children from age 3 onwards, I'm sure there will be a civilization in this great nation which will bring forth the very essence of beautiful, healthy, wonderfully sustaining ecosystems. I'm generalizing. Coming to Goa, we are in the sweep of greater achievements in terms of human quality indices. We have to develop. You cannot be saying that India will be importing everything that is made across. We can be going and have our lazy life lived. That's not good. That's not good, because if you are not or a kind of I want to say that you should not become the part of the road. Instead, you can make the road.
So, when we say this, that the education system and upbringing the children itself with that philosophy, we see that all this development is taking place for the future generations. At the same time, we see a lot of activity, just coming back to our own Zuari and Mandavi rivers, so much of activity going on. At the same time, we also see a lot of tourists who probably we do not tell them or inform them that the waste should not be just dumped, because we look at on the other side of the promenade that is there in Panjim city, you'll find bottles, you'll find garbage, everything dumped there. So how do we then bring a change from the systemic change? I'm not just talking about philosophy, in the school, but a systemic change.
Systemic change. Sahab, let me tell you, and I'm really, really thankful to this great leader, Narendra Modi ji, for the simple reason, Swachh Bharat is an idea with just 2 words. Think of this, a people who mean the value of these 2 words, Swachh Bharat. If we have that ingrained in our thought, I will not, believe me, what I practice, when I cut my milk packet, the smallest piece that I cut, the only small tip I cut, because I don't want the plastic bag to be not reusable. Let it be reused if somebody is genius enough to just pack that part alone. So by this, even the smallest thing reaching the right place of treatment, it will be able to handle the waste properly. The tourists come, and unfortunately we are not sensitive enough for the ecosystem, health and management of its cleanliness. Slowly, these programs by the government of India, the Goa governor is the leader for Swachh Goa, Amchi Goa should be very, very, very clean. And believe me, today when I was driving in this rain-flooded Miramar Road, although I was stuck in the traffic, I was looking for if there's most of the plastic floating. Thank you, Goa, and the people who come to visit Goa. Let me tell you, I did not see much of it, but I did see part of it. So we can be spotlessly clean if we determine and if we go to the right place. Also, when you say, it's also the civic authorities' responsibility to place as many number of waste collecting bins, and that is also being advertised across the nation's TVs and radios. This is capturing, and then when Modi ji declared on the Mahatma Gandhi's day, on his 150th day, believe me, I'm very hopeful, I'm proud to be so, because we will have less and less and less waste reaching out of the treatable limits.
Okay. So on that note, sir, thank you so much for informing us that it will take a collective effort from each and every individual.
Yes.
Not just Goans, but also people who visit Goa, as well as the system in itself. The government initiatives that will make not just our surroundings, but will help in keeping the oceans clean, and we as individuals getting back from the oceans more and more. Thank you, Nagappa Ramaiah sir, for joining this morning on the Good Morning Goa show.
Yes.
And I hope the message is clear. It's a collective effort. It's not just the government initiatives, but it is also an initiative of every individual that will make not just Goa, but our oceans clean, thereby making our world a more cleaner place, wherein we can enjoy better life from the oceans. On that note, thank you for tuning into HCN News and Entertainment channel. Until tomorrow, when I'm here once again with yet another guest, keep watching HCN.